would rather you tell me you're getting a roommate than tell me you're going back to school to get a PhD.
People who don't understand partnership as a skill or an art are just more comfortable being underserved.
Partnership takes work. I figured out a way to cut these costs dramatically because I'm partnering with a friend who's in the same situation.
What we're talking about is a multiplayer game. What you're feeling is not a gap in your romantic life. The reason why this feels impossible is because you're trying to play this single player game.
Trying to figure out what those big expenses you can cut are and finding people that you can partner with to help keep those costs low and everybody wins.
Yeah. But I think the problem is when you focus on relationship status as the key ingredient, instead of trying to escape the game, you miss the point. I'm discovering new things about myself all the time. I mean, even when I reflect back to my recent diagnosis of ADHD, and it started with a strong partnership and a willingness to take accountability for my part. Another banger.
It is. Yeah, it's bringing me back to Bangkok.
Oh my God, I remember that trip.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd ever imagined myself in Thailand. Like, I used to dream of traveling, like everybody does, but I was on the Miami, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas thing. I just had not imagined going to Thailand and then doing it the way that we did.
Yeah.
We tasted all kinds of stuff. And to think, you cook this lobster in the microwave. Did you think it was possible to cook lobster in the microwave?
So I didn't. I had never even thought about it. I don't cook lobster often, but the moment I realized I could, I was like, oh, well, that just actually makes perfect sense. That's probably the smartest way to do it. Like, one of the best ways to cook lobster is to steam it anyway, and that's kind of what you're doing with the any day, except you have the benefit of like being able to steam it and trap it with butter and ginger and the garlic and the lime and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
Definitely doing that going forward.
Hell yeah. Like, and he's from Costco. Like, what? Surf and turf, me.
Right.
But I do want to talk about like possible. That's what I want to lean in today.
Okay.
Because you ever get those questions that start with, do you think this is possible? And then they insert a demographic, like whether it's possible for people who make under, $30,000, or is this possible for people who aren't married or don't live in Atlanta or have more than one kid? Like, you can switch up that question any number of ways.
It always feels like a trick question to me, where like you're asking an impossible question, like, how do I do this if you don't have a job? Or how do I do this if I don't have any money? Or whatever. There's always this emphasis to put the spotlight on what they believe is the key ingredient.
Yes.
And then remove the key ingredient and say, well, how do I make pad thai without the lime? Because I don't like lime.
Yeah.
Or how do I do it without
the peanuts?
The peanuts. And it's like, well, that's a key part of the entire thing. And so you can do something, but you're not going to be making pad thai. And it's the same thing with practically any endeavor. But yes, I do get those questions. Answer them. I think the single question for me is one that's really frustrating, but it's not like there's a 401k for single people,
right?
Or an IRA for married people. You know what I mean? Like, these are all accounts that technically everyone has access to. Obviously, your contribution levels are going to change based on your marital status. And yes, there are benefits to being married, but it's not different. The approach is, generally speaking, about 95% the same, with the exception of a couple of things that you're going to tweak when it comes to tax season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I get, I don't know about you. I always pass the buck and let you answer those questions.
I don't mind answering them because it's an opportunity to highlight what's wrong with the framing of the question, right? Because when you focus on, let's just say relationship status, because that's the one I get a lot when I'm talking to groups is, well, okay, I'm not married, can I still do this? And the answer is absolutely yes. Like, in a lot of ways, it's easier when you don't have anyone to check in with or get alignment with or whatever. But I think the problem is when you focus on relationship status as the key ingredient, instead of trying to escape the game, you miss the point. Because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is a multiplayer game. And so while it is very, very difficult to do it as a single player, all multiplayer games are difficult to play as a single player. You wouldn't play baseball as a solo player. You wouldn't play basketball as a solo player. And so what you need is partnerships. You need people. You need a community. You need, you know, people that you can work with. What you're feeling is not a gap in your romantic life. I mean, maybe you are, but like, in general, the reason why this feels impossible is not because you're not married or because you don't have a boo. It's because you're trying to play this single player game without a team.
For every person that frames it up as something that can only be done when you have that partner or that person that you're with, there's someone else that's like, how do I get my partner to do this thing? Right? Because they don't want to do it. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I almost like want these two different people to meet each other. But like, it's not easier just because you have a partner, and it's certainly not easier or necessarily harder just because you're doing it by yourself. Like, it's just a different level of difficulty.
Yes, choose your heart. Choose your heart.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think what you're suggesting, right, is that it's not about having a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, or a wife, because you can have those things and still not have a partner. Right? Like someone that you can partner with to help accomplish some financial goal, whether it's bring more money into the household or save more money or invest more. Like, you need to have a partner, someone or some group of people that you can work with to help you accomplish that financial goal. And I think that's the thing that people oftentimes get wrong. They assume that, one, you have to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, you know, whatever it is that you're looking for. And then they assume that by default, that person is going to be partnered with them and in agreement with them. And it's like, if that were the case, there wouldn't be so many people who are saying, we are not on the same page, we are not agreeing. It is not something that happens by default, you know what I mean?
And the partnerships don't always have to be long term. They can just be specific to the goal. So like, if you're trying to save money on housing, right, and where you live is a high cost of living, you can't find anything. In that context, a roommate is a partner, right? Someone to help you split the cost of living. It does not have to be forever. It doesn't have to be, you know, many, many years. It can just be for the length of a 12-month lease or a 24-month lease. And in that period, if you can cut your rent in half, you've made strides towards paying off your debt. You've made strides towards paying off your credit cards, towards saving and investing at a higher rate. That's all you really need, is just them little strides. You don't need them like all the time.
Now, where I would rather you tell me you're getting a roommate than tell me you're going back to school to get a PhD. Right? That might feel good. I'm sure you will make yourself and your family proud. But to your point, if your goal is to save money over a short period of time, going back to school or getting that another degree or another certificate, like, those might not actually pay off. But what absolutely will pay off is for you to be able to say, you know what, I figured out a way to cut these costs dramatically because I'm partnering with a friend who's in the same situation. I don't care if we're talking about sharing a Costco membership or sharing a house or sharing, you know, a car or whatever it is, but like trying to figure out what those big expenses you can cut are and finding people that you can partner with to help keep those costs low, and everybody wins.
Yes.
But what's funny though is that you get people who say, all right, I get it. Community is important, and they go out there and they start going back to church. They're joining the church organization, or they are refreshing their membership with their fraternity or the sorority or some professional organization, right? Because your network is your network, right? They read that somewhere and they jump right in, right? But then they still end up being in need. That, to me, is evidence that the community in this regard is not serving you.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of us have doubled down on community, and now we know a lot of people, but we haven't partnered with them on any meaningful goal or thing that we're trying to achieve in our lives.
Right.
And so you're right, we make all of these deposits, and then when we're in need, there's nowhere to withdraw from. It's like moving into a neighborhood and not ever introducing yourself to any of your neighbors, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, you need to know if everybody else's power is out, or if anybody else is experiencing water in the basement. If you don't know your neighbors, it's gonna be very difficult to troubleshoot or even solve a problem that could be experienced by multiple people and can certainly be fixed if you have more hands in the problem itself.
Yeah, it's like we're cosplaying community.
Yeah.
It's like we're scratching the surface. Yes, I pay my HOA fees, but I don't participate in the HOA.
Right.
Or I pay these fees, but I'm not an active participant. Or even to your point, I go to the meetings, I go to the annual convention, but we never take the step to actually broker the relationship and nurture that relationship in a way that can lead to something fruitful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like they just expect it to be a natural byproduct, and like partnership takes work. And it doesn't matter whether or not it's somebody that you're in an intimate relationship or a professional relationship. Like, it's not enough to just show up.
That's right.
It's like the pool party. You know what I mean? It's like you went to the pool party. Nobody actually got in the pool. We're all standing around the pool. And it's like, well, that's where the fun is. That's where the real, you know, things, the decisions are happening right there. But like we go, but then we stop just short. And then we wonder why these things are failing us or not really leading to the kind of output that they were hoping for.
But you're right, we've lost the art of partnership. And art is probably the wrong word, because it's really a skill. It's something that you can learn, and it's something that you benefit from the better that you get at it. And I think people who don't understand partnership as a skill or an art or whatever you want to call it are just more comfortable being underserved than people who understand what it feels like to get out what you put in.
Mm-hmm. All right, microwave lobster. That's the first.
That's how I know. This is how I know.
Work.
When you think about that trip to Thailand, it's been 10 years now, and the world has changed at least 3 times, maybe 4, depending on what side you're on. And with that, our partnership has changed. I remember how when we started, we were like white on rice, and we weren't working together, and you know, we weren't doing the things that we're doing now, and the ways in which we've had to support each other, especially over the last few years since COVID and the pandemic and our business, have been very different. But I've really enjoyed watching you grow and evolve, and you know, I don't know that I've watched myself. I don't know that you've enjoyed me trying to figure out how to support you as much as I have, but like it's an ultimate puzzle. I don't know how to, no, that's not very romantic, but like it's part of the beauty of a relationship, is that you get to fumble through and adjust as your partner is changing and you're changing, and it's like this dance.
You get a front row seat to everything.
Yes.
Right? And you might not always enjoy the show that you are watching, but sometimes you just need to be quiet. Sometimes you need to join that person on stage. Sometimes you need to just sit there and clap for them and encourage them, but yeah, I have enjoyed the experience, and to say that we've changed, like when I think back over those 10-year periods, I mean, even our son aside, right? Like just us as individuals, we've completely changed, and to look at you, and then to even think about who you were when we met, and to think about who I was when we met, like we're looking at two totally different people
yes.
right now. And for me, it makes me excited for the next 10 years. Because,
yeah.
I imagine what I'll be when I'm in my mid-50s, and who you'll be in your mid-50s.
And hopefully we'll still be choosing, because that's the key. Like, the key is to choose to be there for the other person, and that person choose to be with you. I mean, even when I reflect back to my recent diagnosis of ADHD, I think about how much that changed me in the way that I interact within our partnership. We had a pretty established rhythm, and there were things that were not happening that caused you concern that you brought up to me, and that's what pushed me to get the diagnosis.
And frustration, right?
Yes. And I was frustrated too, but I was okay faking it. Like, I was okay just kind of winging it. Versus you, who were like, no, out of love and respect, I should be the person to say, hey, I've noticed these things, like maybe you should go like get that checked out. And I did, and come to find out, like, I'll be goddamned. I am neurospicy, and I've always known that in a way, but I've never thought it was gonna be to the point where I would need medication. And then I took that first pill, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like my old self. Like, I feel like the self that was in Thailand. I feel like it was a return to something. And I don't know that I would have discovered that about myself without a partnership. And even now, I've had to create new partnerships to hold me accountable to the other things, because very similar to what we're talking about, the pill, the medication, the prescription is not magical. I still need to make sure that I have a routine, that I'm getting outside, that I'm drinking enough water, that I'm taking my omega-3s. There's still elements that I have to do to make sure that it works correctly. Yeah. And so I've had to form new partnerships with new people and new doctors and new community members to make sure that, like, I'm supporting myself in the right way. And it's been incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's been interesting to watch.
Yeah, I bet.
I certainly appreciate the improvement, I should say. I was going to say the medicated version. But yeah, no, I mean, if I'm being honest, like it was hard, right? Because it was sad to see someone that is capable flounder.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know I'm not, like, I might be a little off, but I'm not crazy. Like, I know, like, I didn't completely miss the fact that she didn't know how to do these things. I was like, no, she did know how to do these things.
Yeah.
Like, something's off, something's wrong. And so I'm really glad that you found the courage to search. And I'm even more glad that you found a community of people that you trust and resources that you can rely on that can help you be a better version of yourself.
Yeah, it's why I empathize with people who start out with the possibility question, because I didn't think it was possible for me to have any type of neuro anything. I didn't think it was possible for me to have ADHD, because where? Yeah. Like, ADHD where? But that's because it manifests a number of ways. Like we were saying at the beginning of the conversation, like, it looks differently depending on your circumstances. So there isn't just one type. When we continue to promote there's just one type of behavior, there's a bunch of people who don't even try to get help because they think, well, that's not me. They opt out because that's not me. And I was one of those people for damn near 40 years. I haven't experienced symptoms for 40 years, but I was one of those people. Yeah. And so, I think it's important to always dig into the nuance of things and always be asking different questions and always be willing to feel all of the feelings, because you never know when the one is going to trigger you to take action and find a level of accountability that you didn't think you had access to.
Yeah, and you happen to be wearing your nuance.
Yes, that's why I wear the nuance around my neck. Chain little, but I threw some change on it. No, I didn't spend no change on it. I did. This is Black owned. But yeah, that's one of the reasons I wear this nuance around my neck, is because it's a reminder to me. Even stuff like that. I didn't realize all the notes that I write to myself and all the visual reminders and physical reminders, all the piles that I have around it. I didn't realize that was a symptom. I thought that was just my personality. Like, turns out it is a symptom. It is the way that we remain high functioning, is to put all of these reminders, because the working memory doesn't have it. And so I'm discovering new things about myself all the time. And it started with a strong partnership and a willingness to take accountability for my part.